But today I've got a guest on and we're going to be talking about living with ADHD.
What I have learned, because I was not always the best at managing my time, my main goal and focus is to be able to use each person's ADHD to their superpower. How bad do you want it? Are you clear on what you want? And that when we are able to declutter our minds and our bodies and our homes, we are able to think clearer, we're able to feel better.
Boom, I'm in the room. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching from. You're here because there's nothing on the telly, and I'm here because I can. And I would normally come to you live from the old Heale Manor, but today I'm recorded from the Heale Manor. So, without too much further ado, you know what this is all about. This is all about taking the stigma out of mental well-being, taking the stigma out of mental health. You know, I'm always looking for guests. Particularly like to get hold of some veterans because I'm a veteran myself and we like to talk about veterans issues. But today I've got a guest on and we're going to be talking about living with ADHD. So without too much further ado, let's bring her in.
Hi, everyone. Oh,
Wow. Christine, welcome.
welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful.
Well, I'm looking forward to this. I don't know an awful lot about ADHD. We didn't have it when I was growing up. It was a thick ear and get on with it. so,
Yes.
so if you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into helping people with ADHD. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. And I am so excited to be a part of this. So, my name is Christina Rose, and I have been diagnosed with ADHD since the age of 5. I grew up in a very small town in Texas, and I'm sure my accent kind of goes through. But I kind of just grew up with it. Like, in such a small town, it really wasn't talked about. I just know that I couldn't sit still, and I was very into everything. But I knew growing up that it truly was my superpower. I was not very good in school, but I knew how to use that to my advantage. I'm very, very good at customer service. I'm very good for just thinking outside of the box. Well, um, I had been on medication since the age of 5, and it was one that a lot of ADHD medications are stimulant medications that are backed by methamphetamines. Well, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, none of the things. So I actually got off of medication through my adult life. I went into corporate America. I did the 9 to 5. Really, it was about 8 a.m. to about 8 p.m. at night. I was in food. I actually went into fast food and climbed my way up the corporate ladder that way. And I was really, really good at it. And honestly, I thought it was the best that I could do. Um, Different ways that I climbed up the ladder using my ADHD was I would always figure out like the best solution when it came to organizing and functions and systems within inside the restaurant. Um, Everything is fast paced. We need to turn around tables very quickly. So making sure that everyone was on board and how can I think outside of the box versus what corporate was telling us this is the way things need to be set up. This is what needs to be done. So many people don't think like that. Yes, it all looks good on pen and paper, but at the bottom line, it really didn't do that. So like I said, just kind of went on with my life. Somebody would, like one of my bosses would come and tell me, I need this done. I love deadlines. I thrive on deadlines, and I would get it done. Now, maybe not the way that they asked me to get it done, because I would end up processing it my own way, my own, on how I could get it done the most efficient way and the best way that suits my brain. Well, I actually have a 17-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And my 17-year-old, of course, I was 21 when I had him and kind of just grew up just going through the motions. Well, he actually was really, really, really smart in school, straight A student, all the things. Well, then about 12 or 13, I started noticing some of the traits that I had: procrastination, struggling in school. And it dawned on me. I'm like, oh my gosh, my son has ADHD, but his symptoms are not the same as my symptoms. And as most ADHD people do, I went down a rabbit hole and I started studying. I started getting inside ADHD groups, and I'm like, wait a second. I I know what to do for these people. Some of the smallest things, like a lot of times we have a hard time taking a shower. We have a hard time completing tasks that bring us no dopamine, no joy. And I knew ways to get around that, to make ADHD your superpower versus your disability. And it all starts in here, your mind. And so then I went down a further rabbit hole, and I knew that the restaurant industry just wasn't fulfilling my purpose anymore. Like I said, I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, and I just didn't want to do that line of work. And I've always, always wanted to help people. And what better way to help somebody than something that I have struggled through, that I have came out on the other side. So I went into, at first, I was going to do just professional organizing, because I knew when you organize your home, your mindset is clearer and you feel better. Well, I started doing a lot more research, and a lot of ADHD, we are born with ADHD. If you have ADHD, you're born with ADHD. But what I have learned, that through traumas, and it can be everyday traumas. Like here in the US, there's been some people that I have talked to that they were actually born left handed, but everybody always changed it to their right hand. Well, that's all using different parts of the brain. And you literally are unbeknownst, but putting trauma on that person, and basically saying, you're not good enough with your left hand, you need to do it with your right hand. Or you're not good enough with this because your brain doesn't work this way. If you weren't good in school, oh, you can only get this far because this is how things go. So I really started digging in on how the mindset, decluttering the mind, decluttering your body from traumas. I mean, it's like having a beautiful flower bed. If you do not, weeds are going to come up. But if you do not pick those weeds from the roots, they will continue to make the flower bed ugly if you do not get those things from the root. So when we declutter our body from that angle, and also red dyes, our diet, all can be a direct reflection on how our ADHD performs, correct? It's just like depression. When you are depressed, and we are doing nothing with that, we're not eating good foods, we're not sleeping right, it is going to take even a more major toll. So being able to declutter that body as well. And then when you are decluttering your home, it's it's coincided, because when your mind is in disarray, your home is in disarray. So being able to, my main goal and focus is to be able to use each person's ADHD to their superpower, and help them build the functions and systems within their life to perform at maximum capacity, because we all have some kind of superpower. We all have a purpose here on earth. And that when we are able to declutter our minds and our bodies and our homes, we are able to think clearer, we're able to feel better, and we're able to prevent our best form of self. And that's truly the most important thing, is self. When you are discovering, some people didn't realize that they had ADHD until they are adults and wondering what is going on. So what I try to work on is from that mindset issue and from time issue, because if we don't have a good time management, none of those things are going to happen.
So that's it in a nutshell then.
It's pretty much it in a nutshell. Each person is going to be different, but the biggest three things that I can say about ADHD, that if I could give anybody three tips: number one, work on your mindset and your gratitude every single day. Even if fake it until you make it, just continue to live in a state of gratitude, because it's going to alter that mind and put you on the best performance versus, oh, I'm late, I'm running late, I'm going to hit every red light going to work. Well, guess what? You have just put that into existence, and you are going to hit every red light going to work. Number two is take time for yourself. Figure out what you need from that. Is it, versus reading on a paper, is it listening to that? Really finding out what you need to perform at your best each and every day. And three, work on your mental health. Seek out a coach, seek out counseling. And guess what? We don't have to be depressed and in a very bad state to reach out to somebody. It's all about trying to figure out what the best match for you. And I truly believe that everybody needs somebody pushing them and growing. We all should be learning based individuals when it comes to whatever we're trying to succeed in life. I mean, that is so important for your mental health, is to constantly be working on your mental health.
So to go about, I mean, ADHD is a form of, it's a disorder basically in the
Mm-hmm.
brain that
Mm-hmm.
wants, as far as I can work out, people need structure with it.
Yes.
They need to put everything in its place, and everything has its place.
Mm-hmm.
And if something's out of
Because we're
place, that kind of sends them into a sort of a downward spiral.
very much so,
Mess.
and it can be very
Mess
quickly.
isn't great for HDHD.
Hmm. Yes, and it is. And so much of the time, we are coming from a creative place. We are coming of a free spirited place because of the way that our brain works, which is great. But we also have to be a mom, have to be some kind of a boss to somebody, right? And we do have to be productive members of society. And so much of the time, we are not being able to use both sides of our brain. So, a great technique for this is actually brushing your teeth. So, the first hour, my morning routine can be the most crucial thing when it comes to ADHD. The first hour, I do not look at any kind of cell phone, any kind of TV, anything like that, because it's already altering the state of my brain. Um, as you said, we start with structure. So we make our bed every single morning. Just so it's getting in that habit of being on structure, being on time. And the most important thing that I have found that works great for me is I actually brush my teeth. So I'm actually left handed. So I brush my teeth right handed. So it's actually doing a different part of my brain. So I'm already waking up a different part of my brain, right? And then after all of that, I look at my calendar. I mean, I put my so much on my calendar and my alarms. So even what time I'm supposed to pick up the kids, what am I doing in my work block? So I do a lot of in my coaching program, we work a lot on time blocks and blocking out your life. So I have 7 different time blocks, and it's everything from my kids get their own time block, my husband gets his own time block, I get mine, networking in my business, and just different things like that. So I am able
Sounds
to.
like you'd do great in the military. The military work like
Well,
that.
I mean, I do
I
have a
mean,
military husband, so that probably helps a little bit.
so so when I was a young soldier in the military, they made us get up at the same time every morning. We had to make a what they call a bed block. So
Hmm.
we'd have nice duvets like you've got nowadays. They had sheets and blankets, and you had to get them into a box shape, and they had to be really rigid and square. And then the the blanket on the bed had to be uh, pulled out tight, and then you laid all your kit out on it. So great for somebody
Yes.
with ADHD.
Well, and here's the thing is what I have learned, because I was not always the best at managing my time, and it's still an ongoing process. Even though that I teach this, it is something that I consciously have to work at every day. And but it also makes my day, I am controlling my time versus my time controlling me, is basically, I mean, I might have from 8 to 5 I'm just hanging with the husband, but I've blocked off that time from 8 to 5 just to hang with my husband. Or I might put Tuesday night, I do nothing but hang out with my daughter, but I'm able to devote 100% of my time. When it's on my calendar to do something, that's what I'm devoting my time to. And then everything else just kind of has to wait, you know.
So what happens then? So you've got your allocated time to do something. What happens if it doesn't happen? Does that take you off the rail slightly? Does that sort of knock you
Yes and
sideways?
no. Yes and no. I'm very, unless it's a true emergency, and the only people that get to say it's a true emergency are my grandmother. My mom's passed away, and so my grandmother takes very big priority. She's in her 80s. And then my husband or my kids, you know. I also try to change things up once a quarter. So I'm not stuck in a strict routine, so strict that there is no leeway, that I am okay with making that. Um, and outside distractions, you know.
Mm.
I can get on, let's say I get on Podmatch, and I've got all of these matches. Well, I have certain times that I check that, and it'll go off in my calendar. But it's also, my priority was to be here with you today. So I make sure everything, my phone is off, there's no distractions, the dogs are put outside, I'm in a quiet space so I can devote 100% to you. And that's really where that mindset comes in, because meditation and being in that moment, being present, is really our superpower when it comes to ADHD. Because once again, we are controlled. We don't have 15 zillion tabs opened in our mind when we can pause, breathe, and what do we need to concentrate on right now? I'm sure probably 2 to 3 times something throws me, but that's when I just breathe. And what truly is an emergency, what needs to be handled right here, right now,
Mm.
and what can wait.
So we used to do that in the military. I mean, you have a tactical pause, and we used to call it the condor moment. So you
Mm-hmm.
stop, light up a cigar, and just sit back and just work out what's going on, and then get into it once you
Yes.
evaluated it. So effectively, you're doing that. You're taking a condor moment. You're taking a step back, evaluate the situation, and then deal with the priority.
Yes. And
So
it's something that's ongoing. With my
mm,
son, of course, I'm mom. He's 17, kind of doesn't want to listen to me so much.
they go
So
through that
it's like
stage.
uh, the one thing that I do for a living that could help him in so many ways that I had to learn the, I was the one with the
The
messy
hard
house.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was the one that loved shiny new things. So now I'm trying to teach him some of these tools so he can grow up using these tools. But sometimes it's kind of hard because he is my son, which is understandable. But what I do, not really unbeknownst or like I'm doing something bad, it's I hired a personal trainer because I know how important it is to exercise and get rid of some of that stress, that trauma that you have put onto your body each and every day, right? Um, I hired him a tutor that learns the same way he does. So, things like that, to try to help calm his ADHD so he can be more in control of his surroundings, his things. Um, he is not the best at wanting to hang up his clothes and everything being color coordinated. I get that. That's okay. But as long as the drawer itself has just socks in it, I don't care if the socks are folded, as long as they
Mm.
are in a drawer, they're not all over his room. Why do I care if they're folded a certain way? Right? So it's
As
what
long as they're
works
in their
best.
place.
As long as they're in a
Yeah.
place and that place works good and we get them to that place every time, it doesn't have
Mm.
to be my way. It's what works best for you and your systems, because when he goes off to college and things, like I want him to be able to function as a high affecting adult that doesn't have a room full of clutter and things like that. So
Mm.
each one of my children, even my 3-year old, has a routine when in the mornings, and he has a routine at night as well to keep his room clean. And so let's say, for instance, tonight is Tuesday night. Well, that is my daughter's night. She's 5. So we do a deep clean on her room, her weekly deep clean. We do a daily clean, but I go in and dust the ceiling fans and things like that. Well, she is 5, but we walk her laundry to the laundry, and then she helps me hang it up. Is it perfect? No. And I think that that's so much where people are going wrong. Things don't need to be perfect, they need to just work and be efficient, versus me going in and doing my son's room because it's not the way that I want it, doing my daughter's room because it's not the way that I want it,
Mm.
and then continuing to fight that battle with your children, and then you're stressing out. And then guess what? Now my ADHD is all out of whack too.
So it's actually it's giving them not only ground rules, but it's teaching them right from the word go how
Hmm.
to manage their own time, how to
Yes.
how to clean up after themselves, how to get that structure into their lives right from the word
Yes.
go, which
Mm.
should put them in much better stead for the rest of their life.
Oh, yes. And, exercise is a big part of it. I don't necessarily go to the gym like my husband. My husband lifts 6 days a week, all of that. I am more, let me just stretch my body. Let me do some yoga. Let me do some meditating. That's what my body needs. So I also, it's kind of, what do they need? What are they thriving on the most?
Mm.
My daughter loves watching this YouTube person. His name is Danny Go. And, he draws things and he's dancing and, all of these things. Well, normally somebody would be like, why are you letting your kids watch so much TV? Well, she's up dancing and exercising and using different parts of her
Yeah.
versus sitting there on a tablet or something like that. So it's just what works best for her.
Mm.
And that's the most important thing, is there's no right or wrong way that things have to be done just because society says it has to be done that way.
Mm.
It's what works best for you in order for you to succeed and be the best individual um, that you can be, and put the best version of yourself out there. And that's all I'm really trying to do. Is I'm not trying to stop anybody from having ADHD. Let it be your superpower. But what are your symptoms and what are you struggling with? Because a lot of it heightens because of everyday traumas. They are not eating right. They are not handling what's deep within them, because they're either told that they're doing wrong, or that it's not supposed to be this way. You're supposed to write it like this, or, stand
Mm.
up and read in front of the class. Well, sometimes that's scary, So, what are some different ways that we don't I never say let society bend to us and we don't need to bend for them. It's what works best for you, because really there is no right or wrong way to handle it.
So somebody comes to you then. How does somebody come to you? How is somebody identified and they're passed on to you from an agency or a doctor? How do people get
So
in? How does your business work?
so a lot of mine come because I have an organizing business as well. So a lot of them come from the organizing, like their life is spinning out of control and they don't understand how they got that way. And so what I do is we go in and I really start with a questionnaire of, all right, what has been going on? What are some of your symptoms with ADHD? What does an everyday scenario look like for you? So many of the time, it's literally time.
Mm.
So they have the 9 to 5, then they have kids in sports, and then they have to clean the house, and then they, all of these things. And they don't understand how they got there, because it's literally they are living one day to the next. And it's the anxiety and the stress of keeping up with the Joneses, pretty much, of, well, society tells me I have to do this. So what I do is we pause and take a step back, because nothing is going to happen overnight. No grand fixture. I'm not going to be able to tell you something. And especially with ADHD, it's it boils down to, and I hate saying this, but it's the truth. It's self-discipline, accountability at the end of the day. Is what are you going to hold yourself accountable to? And what are you going to do each and every day to change that? I can give you all the tools, all the tips. I can come in and help you organize your home. But if you are not willing to do the necessary inner work
Mm.
and outer work, nothing is going to change. Or you might have a temporary fix, but you are not dealing with the problem at hand. And so much of the time is we don't have boundaries within ourselves or for anybody else to say, no, my plate is full. I cannot do anymore because we want to make sure our kids are doing this. But when we go back and start at step one and start putting ourselves first, because anybody, it's the famous saying, put the mask on yourself before you put it onto somebody else. It's hard to pour from an empty cup. And that's so much of the time is as leaders of the house, whether you be male or female, we tend to wear so many hats that we put ourselves last. And then what
Mm.
kind of parent are we being to our children? what kind of what kind of person are we becoming, because we get so lost into who I am because we're putting so much into everybody else. So we got to get back, like I told you earlier, we got to get back to that flower bed. Okay. We're all beautiful souls, but
Mm.
those weeds are coming up faster than we can handle.
So the ideal situation then is for somebody that's got ADHD is to concentrate on getting themselves sorted out, get
Mm-hmm.
all their ducks in a row before
Yes.
they can start dealing with everything else that's going on. So
Yes.
that's
So
the
I,
key to take away then is to get yourself squared away, work out exactly what works for you, how your life should work for you, and then
mhm,
you can cope with just about anything.
1000%, because like I said, once we get our mind right, that's what I tell everybody, is we've got to get that mind right. We got to get the 1,000 open tabs. Let's get it down to 990. Then we can get it down to 900. And then it's that slow process. And
Mm.
then when you are working on your mindset and you are in a much deeper process with that, then everything else just kind of falls in place. When your mindset is right, you're willing to get out of bed and pick up some of your mess, you know? And so many of the time, we just need a body double. Body doubles become such an amazing thing for ADHD. I even have a two times a week, I have what's called a focus group. And honestly, it's more for me than for anybody. But I also do that. So what I do is twice a week, I block out a 2 hour block on my time, and I have it on Zoom. So everybody joins in, and a lot of times it's more business people than anything, but they join in. And during, so we introduce ourselves and what we need to be working on during this time. And what we do is I mute everybody. The goal, the number one thing is everybody has to stay on camera, right? Because it's more about the accountability. And then we work for a straight hour and a half. Like whatever you said you were going to work on, we work on. And then do a recap at the end of the 15, you know what I mean? The last 15, 30 minutes, depending on
Mm.
how many people are in there. We kind of do a recap on, okay, what did you accomplish? What is your next steps? What does that look like for the rest of the week for you? And it's amazing what you can get done in an hour and a half of solid work, of bearing your head down, no distractions, phones are on airplane mode, of what you can really, really get done. It's
Yeah, I
been
mean
very
that's
successful.
amazing. I mean it's really difficult working in an open plan office environment where there's so many different distractions going on.
Hmm.
And I think modern day culture where people are now starting to work from home a lot more, those that do have something like ADHD
Hmm.
are far more productive at home than they would be in an office
Oh,
because they haven't
yes.
got distractions and they could concentrate on what they're doing.
The biggest thing is the procrastination of doing things that we don't want to do, that are just like you have to do. There's always those things that you have to do that you really don't want to
Yeah.
do. So it's making ourselves, but that's where that self discipline is. How successful do you want to be? And here's the thing: is success is defined in so many different ways. My idea of success and abundance is going to look completely different than your idea of success and abundance. Um, the biggest thing is, how bad do you want it? Are you clear on what you want? When we are depressed, we're living in the past. And when we are anxious and our anxieties are high, we're living in the future. We're living in the unknown. And when we get back to present moment, which believe me, I have to do literally about 3 to 4 times a day, is calm my mind, get back into the present moment, the right here, the right now. And it's amazing how much of the anxiety just
Mm.
goes away.
So but the bottom line is that you just have to get your mindset right,
Hmm.
and
Mindset is
then
everything.
everything,
So,
and then everything else can drop into place around it. And
oh, yeah.
recognizing yourself, I guess that you're starting to get anxious. You're starting to, and all you need to do is then recognize that that's happening. Step back, take a condor moment, work out what's gone wrong, and then move forward. And
Oh,
that
yes.
and that will work for just about anybody that's got ADHD.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I believe it pretty much is going to work for anyone that has ADHD, anyone that's a neurodivergent, or anybody. I mean, so much of the time, especially from a mental health standpoint, we have an epidemic of depression and anxiety. And it's it's crazy to me now being on the other side. I mean, I used to be that side. But
Yeah,
it's the consistency. It's those small, the tortoise is going to win every time because of the small, consistent habits. Um,
yeah.
it's like going to a gym. I'm sorry. 9 times out of 10, you start, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It all falls out of
January,
place within
January,
four.
January.
Yeah.
All the time it's
Yeah.
January. Soon as it's
Uh-huh.
the new year, new resolution, off to the gym. By the
Hmm.
1st of February, you've mugged it off.
Yep. So me, I started going 2 days a week and doing stretching 2 days a week and just drinking water. I didn't I didn't worry about anything else, just those things. And then I stayed at the 2 and 1, and then just added a healthy meal into, like, switched out one of more of my fast food meals, and then gradually continued to work on those things.
Mm.
And then it's almost like that compound interest. Once you start working on something, you're starting to feel a little better. So you got a little mojo, you're going.
Yeah,
Now let's add just a little bit more, because even without ADHD, you pile on and say, I'm going to change and I'm going to do this and I'm going to conquer the world. So much of the
yeah.
time, it doesn't happen.
Mm. It's just having that little bit of self self discipline, self determination, and belief in yourself that you
Oh, yes.
can do it. And
Have those hard
it's
conversations with
finding
yourself.
finding that time to do it. And I
Hmm.
think that's one of the key is time. Time nowadays it just evaporates.
Oh, yes. And the thing, I mean, we all know that 24 hours, we all have the same 24 hours. How we use that, I know that you asked me earlier, how do you keep that? Well, I have to tell myself it's a non-negotiable. This is what my schedule said, even though five other things came up, those can go on the calendar for tomorrow. Or can I
Yeah.
delegate those out? Do those really need to be handled right now, right this second?
Well, I think I've learned quite a bit.
Well, good. I that's my biggest thing, is I just want to educate. And I might not be
Mm.
the right fit for everybody. From a scientific point, I probably don't know that much, but the hands-on experience and has worked for me and so many of my clients is just really being that learning based individual and just starting at square one. Let's just worry about today. Tomorrow's
Yeah.
not here yet. Let's just worry about today. What is the one thing that you can do for yourself today that's going to impact you for tomorrow?
Yeah. Every single journey is started with the first step.
Yes.
And it's taking that first step that will lead on to the second step. And I think once you've started the journey, then it's the ability to keep it going and take one step at a time.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And that is the biggest thing. And from your military, so much of the time I was like, I am not going to be on a schedule. This, like I am not meant to be on a schedule. So I probably fought my husband on it till he's pretty much out of like the whole mindset of the military where the bed has to be perfect and everything. And now I'm going, why isn't the bed made right? Like we need to be like the Ritz. And he's like,
Why
you
haven't you
used
done
to
your bed block
never
this
worry
morning?
about the bed. And now you're worried about the bed.
Yeah. One way coffee conversation
Oh,
without
yeah.
coffee.
Yes, yes. So, um, yeah, but those are some really big things. Like I said, your time.
Yeah.
And it's, hey, the start of the week, I probably set about 30 alarms throughout my day. Just if I do get sidetracked, it's going to pull me back in fairly quickly versus I've just lost a whole day worth of work.
Mm. Well, Christina, that's been fascinating.
Well,
Thank you
thank you.
so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you today. I'm very grateful.
No, I've enjoyed it.
So,
Wow. I've learned a lot today about ADHD. It's all about believing in yourself, sorting out your time management, and taking small steps and getting all your ducks in a row. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being there, and I will see you next week. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.